Hey everybody, happy Monday. I hope everyone had an awesome weekend. I know we had some pretty weather, so hopefully you went outside and did something fun. We had pretty weather today, so make sure that you get all of your NTI work done today so that you can go outside and enjoy it. We are looking at NTI Day 29, and we're finally moving into what the standard defines as what you truly need to know as a third grader for geometry. This is probably the most important thing that you can learn from geometry. But you have to take all the knowledge that you've learned the past couple of weeks and apply it here. Okay, so you got to really engage your brains. So we're looking at comparing different polygons. So if you guys remember some of the vocab that we went over, a polygon is just a fancy term for any 2D shape. Okay? And we looked at the fancy word for quadrilateral. And what is a quadrilateral? Well, we know that quad means four and lateral means side. So it literally means a four-sided figure. That can be any four-sided figure. We looked at a couple of examples such as rectangles, squares, rhombuses, trapezoids. Those are your typical standard quadrilaterals. Okay. And then we also looked at parallelograms. A lot of people are getting this confused because they thought if it had one set of parallel sides that they were good. But that's not true. It has to have two sets of parallel sides. So we know that yes, our rectangle is a parallelogram, our square is a parallelogram, and our rhombus is a parallelogram because it actually has two sets. Oop, that is not what I was wanting to do. Let's try that again. It has two sets of parallel sides. Here's my first set. And now here's my second set. Drawing on here is harder than it looks. Okay, so there are two different sets. The trapezoid doesn't qualify for that because it only has this set of parallel sides. One. When we talk about a set, it's like a pair. It's like a pair of shoes. You have to have both shoes in order for it to count. So you have one pair right here. This would not count because we said that eventually it will intersect. See that? So these would be our intersecting lines. So trapezoid, not a parallelogram. So we were looking at different terms. We were looking at classifying the quadrilaterals and classifying the parallelograms in hopes that we now would be able to compare them. So that's what we're going to be looking at today. First, I'm going to do a little side note. Friday, we were putting lines of symmetry on butterflies, and we were learning about camouflaging of butterflies because it was a science day. It's the Friday. Well, we looked at some of their lines of symmetry. I don't know why that keeps coming back. Erase. So here are some of my different quadrilaterals and their lines of symmetry. A rectangle has two lines of symmetry. 1, 2. Because if I were to fold this, I think about a rectangle as in like a piece of paper. I could fold it hot dog style and it'd perfectly meet, or I could fold it hamburger style and they would perfectly meet. A rhombus, okay, it looks like a diamond. It has two lines of symmetry, one going this way because this side and this side are the same, or one going horizontal because this side and this side are the same. Triangle has three because it has three different points that will perfectly meet down the middle of a triangle. Square, it has 1, 2, 3, 4 different lines of symmetry, and a trapezoid only has one line of symmetry because if we were to try to split it down the middle this way, we know that this side at the top and this bottom side are not the same. Okay, they would not perfectly meet. So a trapezoid only has one line of symmetry. Let's go ahead and dive into comparing different polygons. Because tomorrow we're going to look at classifying the polygons. So by comparing them, it's setting you up to classifying them without even knowing it. So I've got a couple of what is with this line, y'all? I don't know why it keeps coming back. Okay, so I've got 3 different polygons here. And it's asking me, how are these alike and how are they different? So it's like a Venn diagram. We're comparing and contrasting them. Let's start with alike. Well, first off, all of these shapes are typical 2D shapes. So you automatically can classify these 3 different shapes as polygons. Let's not put that in capitals. There we go. The next thing I would say that we need to look at is, are they quadrilaterals? Well, quadrilaterals are any shape that has four sides. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. They are all quadrilaterals. Check on that. And the next fancy term that we need to look at is parallelograms. Are they all parallelograms? Actually, yeah, they all are, because the rhombus has 1, 2 sets of parallel sides, and so does the rectangle. 1 set of parallel sides, the top and the bottom. Oh, and there's 2 sets of parallel sides. And we know our square is the same way. Going this way, it's parallel sides. Going this way, it's parallel sides. So they are all parallelograms. Now we got to say, are they all the same shape? Would I classify all of these as a rhombus, a rectangle, or a square? No, they're not all the same shape. Do they all have acute angles? No, they do not. I know that my rhombus has obtuse angles and acute angles, but my rectangle and my square only have 90-degree angles. So they don't have any of the same angles. They don't all have right angles. Do they have intersecting lines? No, because really these two shapes only have perpendicular lines, while this shape does have intersecting lines. So this would be my only 3 things that they have in common. How are they different? Well, we just talked about it. 90, let's say right angles dash rectangle and square. And then I would say something like the rhombus has intersecting lines. And there you go. That lines just keeps coming up on me. All right, let's compare a couple more shapes. And this is really important. I don't understand. This is really important because this is what I'm going to ask you to do on your quiz. I'm going to give you different shapes and you're going to have to compare them. Sorry guys, I had to pause that because for some reason in my household, no one can do anything without me, such as find a blanket. I'm sure a lot of your parents feel the same way. Okay, so we're moving on. So we have these 2 shapes that we are going to go ahead and compare. Well, first off, those are 2 very typical shapes that we learn in kindergarten, and we know that they are polygons. So we can go ahead and put that in the alike column. Now our next question is, are they quadrilaterals? Well, they do both have 4 sides, so yes, they are quadrilaterals. Let's write that in. And the next one is, are they parallelograms? Of course they're parallelograms. They're one of the most well-known parallelograms. It's a rectangle and a square because it has 2 sets of parallel lines, 2 pairs of parallel lines. All right, the next question, are they the same shape? You guys might be saying no, because this is a rectangle and this is a square. But remember the song, squares can be rectangles, but rectangles can't be squares. Therefore, they're actually both rectangles. Do not miss this on the quiz because I'm pretty much giving you this answer. It will ask you to go ahead and check mark everything that the 2 shapes are, and it is rectangles. So make sure you check mark that part because squares can be rectangles. So they are the same shape. Do they both have acute angles? They do not have acute angles. Or do they have obtuse angles? No, they do not have obtuse angles. Do they have right angles? They do have right angles. Which means they have perpendicular lines. And that would be how our shapes are alike. How are they different? Well, the square has 4 equal sides. And the rectangle does not. That would really be the only way that they're different because they're technically both rectangles in the same shape. It's just the square has 4 equal sides. And our last 2 shapes that we're going to compare, well, last 3 shapes That green line. I mean, come on. Keeps photobombing our video. Or video bombing our video. Okay, so we have a trapezoid, we have a rhombus, and we have a square. We've been talking about how are they alike. Well, are they polygons? They are polygons because they're typical 2D shapes. Are they quadrilaterals? They are quadrilaterals because they all three have four sides. Are they parallelograms? Well, we know that the square is for sure a parallelogram because it has 1, 2, that's one pair. And then here's another pair of parallel sides. And then we have the rhombus. Here's a set of parallel sides. So we know we're good there. Here's a set of parallel sides. Now the trapezoid. Here's a set of parallel sides. But remember how we talked about a trapezoid's not a parallelogram because these sides would eventually intersect. Okay, so they're actually not all parallelograms. I can actually put that in my different column. The rhombus and the square are parallelograms, but the trapezoid is not. Okay. All right. Next on my list, are they all the same shape? No, they are not. Do they all have acute angles? Well, my rhombus does, and my trapezoid does, but my square does not. So you could say the trapezoid and the rhombus have acute, obtuse, because you know they have to have both, and intersecting lines, because intersecting lines go with acute and obtuse angles, while the square does not. Because we know our square has right angles and it has perpendicular lines. So that would be how they are alike and how they are different. Okay, so that's really all I have for you guys today. So far today we looked at lines of symmetry, we reviewed quadrilaterals and parallelograms and some of those fancy terms, and then we went ahead and we compared different polygons. So now what I want you to do today, the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to get a green light on reflex. That's always a given. Every Monday and Tuesday you get that green light. The second thing that you're going to do is you're going to watch this video and take the Ed Puzzle quiz. After you take the Ed Puzzle quiz, you're actually going to take this quiz right here. Okay, it has your standard on it. It talks about comparing polygons, and it's going to ask you the same questions that I'm talking about in this video. Okay, so there's no reason we're actually even comparing the same shapes. No reason that you don't do really well on this quiz if you paid attention during the video. Hope you guys have a fantastic Monday. I'll see you tomorrow on Tuesday for NTI Day 30.